What's up? It's live Fire with Dad.
Fire with Dad, baby.
Look at that. You're on that side of the screen, but you're also on that side of the screen.
I'm on both sides of the screen.
Both sides.
I'm a twosome.
Twosome. So we are in our new office. We're gonna have to do this in the future, maybe over there. Let's do it actually now. Oh, I got to plug in. The battery's going dead. So in the future, we might be over there because the window, you want the light coming at you, not behind you.
Exactly.
We look kind of dark. You look like you're undercover, like maybe you're in that witness protection.
Well, I am. I'm in the Cubs protection.
Cubs protection because they've been protecting their win-loss runner. No, they haven't been protecting.
They were in first place a month ago, and now they're scrambling to not trade everybody away.
So we're in our new area that's going to be our office. We're going to have kind of a little co-dad and son office area here at the new office.
Double fire.
Double fire. So today's topic, Dad, is sales. You know, we've been doing a lot of training this week, a lot of prospecting for certain stuff, doing a couple of things for the company. But I also had a call yesterday with a guy who owns a catering software for restaurants. And he talks about in one of his books the need for sales. And I feel like a lot of business owners, whether you're a mechanic or a restaurateur or a fisherman, you open a business because of your passion, you're good at it. And it's like it's a negative connotation if you're selling.
You got to sell.
But at the end of the day, every business, every restaurant owner should be walking out on the streets every day figuring out how can I get more people to come in.
Working on the business instead of in the business. probably the best example is because we've been talking about restaurants all day. Probably the best example is guys that work in restaurants. Guy, all of a sudden, he's a chef in a restaurant, and he's really, really good, so he decides to go on his own. So now he's sitting in the restaurant, he's cooking the food, doing anything, but you got to have people coming in the door to eat the food. And you got to get out of the kitchen, and now you got to create another persona of creating business. And the problem with a lot of small business people is they don't understand that even though they hate sales guys or they hate sales or sales is a negative word to them, guess what? If you don't have any sales, you could be the best chef in the world and no one's going to eat the food.
I mean, the best mechanic, the best chef, everybody has this perception.
Well, I always tell people, if you got gold in your garage, if you got the garage door down, guess what? No one knows you got the gold.
Well, you don't want anybody knowing you get gold.
Well,
they'll be stealing your gold.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. It's
just like in the church. It's like in religion. You know, this little light of mine. You got to don't put the handle on. You got to let everybody see the light.
Yeah, I don't know where I know that this little light of mine song, but I don't know the relation behind it. But I'll leave that one to you. But I did notice something for the viewing audience. You're rocking Ray-Ban glasses, like prescription Ray-Bans.
Yeah,
that's pretty fancy.
They were pretty expensive.
That's like new and hip.
Well, they were pretty expensive.
You got the Ray-Bans. Oh, you took the stickers off your hat.
Yeah, I just got very uncomfortable.
I had the stickers on his hat for like a month.
I know. I got very uncomfortable. So yesterday.
Uncomfortable with a sticker?
Well, I just felt weird because I've never had a hat where you kept your stickers on.
That's what I do.
I feel like Minnie Pearl when she kept her price tag, her tag on her hat. And she's a country western singer, and she always kept her tabs on her hat.
Okay, so back to topic. So we know you're not hip now because you were hip with the sticker on the hat and the Ray-Bans.
Well, you can just fake. You can say they're on there. You just can't see.
You're mini hip. But back to the sales aspect, I hear this a lot. I hear from a lot of business owners that they're not in sales or they don't sell. And there's even a negative connotation in the world. Like I remember when I got out of college, I won't mention his name, but this guy that I know was looked down on me. He was the marketing director of a nonprofit, and he had this title, and I was a salesman in radio advertising. And it was kind of comical because like a few years later, he made a comment that, man, I wish I would have went the route you did. There's people don't think about the sales aspect. I had somebody recently ask me, hey, how can I get better at what I want to do in my career when I get out of college? I said, find a sales job in advertising. Don't find an advertising job. Don't find a job doing social media or doing this. Go find a job selling advertising because then you get to talk to businesses about their advertising. You get to learn what's working, what's not. And in a few years, you'll be pretty damn smart. But they don't teach sales. High school, most colleges don't. And that's the biggest missed item.
Well, it's kind of humorous. I was coaching a company about 7 or 8 years ago, and they sent me over their person who is supposed to be their salesperson. And she comes into my class and she says, "Well, I majored in marketing in college." I said, "So now you got to be in sales." "Well, I don't do sales. I do marketing." I said, "Honey," I says, "you do sales."
Yeah.
"No, I'm a marketing." And the reason why was sales had a negative connotation to her, and she was a marketing person. I said, "Honey, every marketing person's in sales, whether they like it or not." He said, "Well, I'm not. I'm marketing." So she ended up quitting the company the next day because I'm not a salesperson. I'm marketing.
Yeah.
And the lady who owned the company says, "Man, you're in sales."
And ironically, guess what marketing is? If you're a copywriter, you are writing copy to sell people, to convince them to take the step you want.
And that's all marketing is. If you're writing, if you're doing a marketing brochure, guess what? It's all designed to create revenue, which guess what it is? That's called selling.
Yep. So,
and another example is I love this. I've coached probably 300 or 400 franchise companies, franchisers. And I love it. They work at a big corporation, so they're 55 years old. They all of a sudden decide that they take the buyout from the corporation. So now all of a sudden they're going to buy a franchise.
yeah.
And it cracks me up because there's two types of franchises: turnkey franchises and franchises that you buy that they aren't really turnkey. You got to create your own revenue, put your own sign up.
They tell you they're turnkey.
Oh yeah, big time. So one guy, I'll never forget this. He buys the franchise, and I'm talking to him about his sales or whatever. He says, "I don't really understand this sales thing." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I bought this franchise. I got my sign out front, and there's nobody coming in the door." I says, "Well, you got to go out and meet people, and you got to go out and create some interaction. You got to go out and advertise. What is all that about? I didn't sign up for this." I says, "Well, you've got to create some revenue." He says, "Well, I was an IT guy. I'm not a salesperson." Guess what? You're now salesman in chief, whether you like it or not.
Well, it's like yesterday. The guy I interviewed yesterday from Cater's End. He said, you bought your big fancy Mercedes Sprinter van. You wrapped it. It's not going to do anything sitting in the garage, sitting in the driveway. You got to go get it in front of people. You got to go have it on the road. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what business you are in, you're selling. And I think that's something that people need to really take the bull by the horns. What's a book you would recommend if this is a business owner watching this that needs to buy a book to really get them started in the world of selling?
I would say Who Moved the Cheese.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a
short
read too.
As a short read, about 50 pages. It's Who Moved the Cheese, and it's like I did my webinar on Monday, and my webinar's title is Are you working on your business or are you working in your business? And the problem with most people is they don't understand you can't sit behind the desk doing book work all day. The minute you start doing that, if you say you're doing work that's bookkeeping work, well, guess what? You can hire a bookkeeper for $15 an hour. So the minute you start doing bookkeeping, okay, you just lowered your income, your expense, what you're worth to $15 an hour. What's your time worth? It's not worth 15. It should be worth about $100 to $300 an hour minimum.
Yeah.
Well, if it is, you just made yourself a $15 employee. So my attorney used to always tell me when I first started is, "Dwayne, do what you do best and hire the rest." And so make sure you got to be out there selling. You got to be working on your business, creating revenue. If you're not doing that, your business is never going to go anywhere.
Yep. That's all we got.
Cha-ching, baby.
Adios. See y'all. Have a great week.
I'll get out of here.